Oh, we got it.
Okay, I'm going on here. Hey.
Hello.
No, ¿qué pasa?
Hello.
Good evening, Rabosai.
Kenny. Nice to see you, Kenny.
Hi, Kenny. Marco.
Hey, guys.
Gemar Chatima Toiva, Kenny.
Gemar Chatima Tova, Rabosai.
Ernie, was machst du?
Hi.
How are you?
So yesterday we learned that Rabbi Bar of Hanan used to travel from Artivna to Pumbedisa. And he would say, Omar teheshvi sosi bitsimta. He would say, let my Shabbos domicile be in Sinta, which was halfway between those two tchumim. And that would give him access to both of those places. Amalei Abai, my daita. I understand, what are you holding? We know that the machlok is between Rav Meir, Rav Yehuda, Rav Yehuda. The honor of Chisda machlok is b'makom ploni. And Rav Chisda was one who said that machlok between Rav Meir and Rav Yehuda is when you try to designate at a landmark, not where you physically are, but you say, I want my domicile to be at that tree, such and such tree. And we paskin like Rav Yehuda, but Rav Hanan would recognize that Bahar Rav Nachman v'Tanya Kovelse, that Rav Nachman doesn't hold like that you're allowed to designate a place between at a specific tree. Why wouldn't he take Rav Nachman's shita into account? Yeah, I'm going to change what I do. I'm not going to do that anymore. Amar Rabbi Bar Chama, Harei Amru, Shavas, Yesh lo arba amos. So when someone physically goes with his body and establishes a mokum shvisa, a domicile with his body, so besides the 2,000 amos that he gets, he also gets arba amos beyond that. Well, what about, so the question is, when you put bread down to make your eruv, yesh lo arba amos or lo? Do you get that extra arba amos or not? We learned yesterday that the reason that they came up with this ability to use bread is that a rich man doesn't have to leave his house, can send a shaliach to whatever location it is, and he can put the bread down for him. Now, since it's to make it easier for him, Shalo Yetze V'yar V'rag, that he doesn't have to go physically do it with his body, and the V'yamrit Ein Lo, if you're going to answer me that a person who makes an eruv with a bread, you don't get that extra arba amos. What kind of kula is it? He's getting only 2,000 amos, where the other guy gets 2,004. Right? Allah lachmir, you're being machmir on him. Morris says there's no riot for that. Maybe no, because I feel maybe he's willing to.
Ernie, Daled Amot makes such a big difference.
It does. In the halacha, 2000 versus 2004 is a world of difference, because they're exact. That means we've had cases, Walter, where if you're at your 2,000 amma distance and you take one amma step, that's it. You're done. So if you have an arba amma if you have an arba amma
Yeah,
leeway,
but
it's a huge.
how much is Arba Amos? It's like
Arba amos is 8 feet.
8 feet. It's so basically it's a ruba. It's a ruba. You got 2,000. You got.
I understand, but we're going to learn later tonight that if you're 2,000
got
amas,
4,000 feet. You have 4,000 feet, right? So
but,
that four.
but at the end of your, we're going to see if you're, let's say your tchum, which is your 2,000 amma tchum, ends at a city. You're not allowed to take it a step beyond. That's just the way these halachas work. It's calculated to the inch.
Yeah, but why is that a chumrah? Okay, I don't. It's fine.
That he's only getting 2,000 instead of 2,004, and the Gemara ends up saying, yeah, even though he's getting less distance, it's still he's willing to put up with it because he didn't have to go with his own body to be at the tchum ben hashmashos. He could do it with a piece of bread. And that's how the Gemara ends up, that he's willing to give up on those extra arba amos. Because, like you say, it's not such a big deal for him. Mishnah. So, a person is traveling to a city, which is he laid down an eruv, and this city is within the 2,000 amos that he laid down. And he's traveling from his city to that other city. Now, on the way, one of his friends said, it's too cold, it's too hot. And the guy went back home. The din is hu muter leilech. He can go. If he changes his mind later on Shabbos, he could go to the next city. But v'chol bnei ir asur. But the other people in the city cannot. Because for him, who was on the road already, he was koine shvisa halfway, even if he didn't say anything. Well, neither he nor the people in the city said, I want my domicile to be there. But since he showed himself by traveling, by taking steps out of his house, heading in that direction, it's obvious, even without him declaring it, that would be a shvisa. But that's only because he started walking. But the chol bnei ir asurim, because they did not. That's what the Gemara is going to tell us, is the nafkamina between him and the bnei ir. Divrei Rav Yehuda, Meir oimer, kol shu yachol ha'arav v'lo irev, that in this case, he was oiker from his irregular place. And he did not specifically coin a shvisa in that middle place, harei chamar gamo, that, like we had before, he's not a donkey, he's not a camel. It means he only gets the two tchumim of the two cities, that the common areas that they share. So it's a much smaller area. It might be 1,000 amos.
I just don't know. He sent out the shaliach, right? The shaliach
No,
didn't do what?
no.
Not
the second case?
The first case. The first case.
He starts walking because he's planning to go to another city that's within 4,000 amos of him. Because by demonstrating that he's walking, let's say I'm walking from Hancock Park to the valley, and let's say the valley is within 4,000 amos. Let's say the Hollywood Bowl is 2,000 amos from my house, and from the Hollywood Bowl to the valley is 2,000 amos. And I head out towards the valley. So even though I didn't say anything, it's understood that remember, once I make a tchum, once I extend my tchum 2,000 amos in one specific direction, I can't go even one amma the other way. So that's what's going on here. But he didn't declare openly, I'm establishing streets. So what this mission is teaching us is that by setting out by foot, heading in a direction like that, it's as if I declared the Hollywood Bowl to be my domicile. But that's only for him. For the Bnei Ir that stays at home, they can't go to the valley on Shabbos.
He sent the shaliach.
He didn't send a shaliach. He's not talking about shaliach.
The first case, he sent the
Misha
shaliach.
yotzo leilech be'ir shema arvin ba. A person setting out to a city that is within his diameter. That means it's within 4,000 amas. He could reach it by making a domicile 2,000 amas away. V'echziro chaver, and on the way, his friend told him, it's too hot today, it's too cold today, go back. He goes back. The next morning or later on that afternoon, he can decide to go again.
But
Because
he didn't get to his position that he wanted to get to.
he didn't need to. Like we've been learning all along, once you're on the road, you can say with your mouth, I want my tchum to be at that landmark. That's going to be my Shabbos domicile. That's exactly what happened here, except he didn't say it. By traveling in that direction, it's as if he said it. That's how Rashi learns.
So it's a machshava mitzarefet lemaisa here?
It's just a Maisa.
No, it's a machshava. He had in mind to get to that place. Where do we learn that
It's
machshava
nechshav,
becomes a maisa?
It's nechshav ki'ilu kana shvisa be'emtza derech afilu lo pirish kei.
But what's the basis for that?
That's the chiddush of this Mishnah. That's the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda.
Okay,
And we've been building this way because first we said you have to say it. Then we have to. This Mishnah is now extending.
But that's the only place that you have machshava is in Pigul. You don't have machshava in anything else that you learned.
Here it's more than machshava. It's his Maisa's doing it. The fact that he's heading out in that direction.
Yeah, he's heading, but he didn't get there, so he has a machshava to get there.
Look, you can't walk 4,000 amas without establishing a makam shvisa 2,000 amas from where you are. So by expressing his desire that I'm going to the valley, everyone knows that he's making his domicile at the Hollywood Bowl.
But how does he express his desire? By verbally? So it's also machshava, like Walter says.
Okay,
and then he said it's too hot. He said the guy told him it's too hot. Go back. So he goes back. But so how does the guy?
Gentlemen,
machshava changed.
Gentlemen, listen.
Yeah.
We can read every Rashi. Let's read Rashi. I teach with Rashi, whether I read it or whether I don't read it. But let's read Rashi. This is not my pshat. Rashi. Misha yotze me'ira leilech be'ira acheres. Shema arvin basar shmucha le'ir b'toch arbes alofim. It's exactly how I explained it. Hu muter leilech. Afal pi shelo yomar klum. Kibrashti le'el. We brought this Gemara already.
That's a huge chidush.
The kevan sheyesh lo l'sham bayis. Since he has a, and the Gemara will tell us he has a home in this city, and he has a home in the other city. So since that's the case, so he didn't change his mind. He's heading towards another house. Therefore, therefore he establishes domicile Hollywood Bowl. He becomes like the Oni HaOmer Shvitsasi b'Malkum Plon, the Kana, the Ha'oni U. The hichzik baderech. Once he sets out on the road, that's all he needs to do. He doesn't have to say anything, period. Okay. In a Chanami, it's a big chiddush, but that's what this Mishnah is adding.
I hear, but it's really a big chiddush.
To what we've been previously learning, whereas exactly, we have to enunciate it. Here, it's not. Okay. And the Gemara will explain as we learn through the Gemara and elaborate this concept.
Okay.
Maishna ihu umaishna inu. I mean, why is he treated that he can go and they can't? This is because I have a house here in Eckhart Park. I have a house in the valley. Between the two houses are 4,000 amas. Him, once he sets out on the road, Havale Oni, a person who's traveling, is considered that he doesn't have a dime to his name. He has no food with him, so a person in his house is an Oshir. And once he travels, he's considered like an Oni. And those people in the city, Ani Ashirinin, and they're according to that Shita, where the Ashirim cannot designate, they cannot be coin a shvisa at a site if they hadn't put an Eruv down before. He can because he's like an Ani. And that's why we learned in the previous couple of days The difference between an onion and Osher between the two mandamrim. Tanamachi, and there's a baraisa to prove exactly what we just explained. Mishiyeshu shnei batim. Person has two homes. And there's 4,000 amos between them. Kivin shehichzik baderech. And Rashi says, Afim lo amar shvisasi b'sof hatchum. Even if he didn't specifically say, I want my shvisa to be at the end of the tchum, chazu, it works. Kana eruv de Rabbi Yehuda. Yesser al kain on Rabbi Yehuda. On top of this, Rabbi Yehuda's son, Rabbi Yossi said, Afilu mitzor chaver v'amar lo linpo. On the way, one of his friends said, you know what, go back to your original house. A schamo, it's going to be 110 degrees in the valley. A sino, it's going to be cold. And he goes back. Because once he set out, it's as if he laid down the tchum already. Now, Amar Rabbah, Loimar, to teach us, Kula Amaloi Pliga did Tzarich.
But he didn't say go back.
That means in order for that to work, there's no argument if the chaver told him to go back to his house and sleep there at night again. Because it was hot or cold that he went back. And even so, therefore, that's why his das still remains that he wants that tchum at the Hollywood Bowl so he can continue the next day. If nobody stopped him to tell him it's too hot, it's too cold, go back. If he did on his own, so Ikala Meimar Nimlach maybe changed his mind. And therefore, lo kona shvisa l'sham. So then, it might be not bad. If he went back on his own, that's what Rabbah says, that the guy had to tell him that. Ki pliga l'hamzik. However, what about this Yesra'el came? What is this extra leniency that the son of Rabbi Yehuda is saying? It means, I feel lo yizlik baderech, even if he did not set out on the road. Ela she'amar lo chavero linpo, even before he took a step out of his house. Maybe he was talking to his friend and thinking, I'm going to go to the valley. But then his friend, even before he set out, told him, stay here. Shoshami Men Shai wrote a lot says, because maybe the guy had heard that he wants to go out. That machlokas is by laharzik, whether setting out on the road creates the same situation. Rabbi Yossi says he doesn't have to set up on the road. And the other Mandama says he has to set on the Rabbi Yehuda says at least he has to start walking. If he didn't start walking, it doesn't work. And Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, the son, says even if he didn't start walking, it would work. That's the way the first Mandama explains. Rabbi Yosef Amar, Laharzik, once he sets out on the road, Kulam Aloy Pligid Itzarit. So then there's no machlokas that the guy has to tell him to go back. If he went back on his own, he would lose his domasak. He pligi loma. The machlokas would be regarding, does he have to say something about koinish shvisa? And perhaps if he didn't say something, it wouldn't work. Now, therefore, based on this understanding, this machlokas, kama nazla adam Ula, who does the following piece that Ula said go like? Ula said like this. Mi shechzik baderech. He started traveling. And his friend said, go back, it's hot or cold. Harehu muchzer umuchzik. He's considered somebody who returned, but he's somebody who set out on the road. The Gemara doesn't understand, what do you mean? I muchzer lama muchzik. The I muchzik lama muchzik. It can't be both. You can't be a muchzer and a muchzik. So, hachi kamer. This is how the Gemara understands. Afal pisha muchzer, even though he was turned back, and he did return to his house, he is muchzik. Since he started walking, if he decides tomorrow to go again, it will work. That's Kaman Rav Yosef, who says that he actually has to travel. V'alibet Rav Yosef, Rav Yehuda. Okay. Rav Yehuda bar Ishtata Isolate kakola de pair Rav Nosson bar Oishaya. Rav Yehuda used to send a basket of fruit. He would come Friday night with fruit to Rav Nosson. Kiava Ozol, when he was going back home, Shavke Adinachas Darga. He waited until he took a step out of the house, and then he told him, Amalei Bishacha, you know what? You should stay here the night. It's a shame that you have to go walk home. But he didn't say it to him until he took a step. L'machar kodem v'azil. The next day he returned home. So who is this? Kiman Kid Rav Yosef again. It's like Rav Yosef. I believe Rav Yosef Yehuda says that he's got to start traveling already in that direction for it to work. So the Gemara says, "No, that it could be Karabba Valibid Rav Yehuda. It could be like Rabbah, because maybe in this case he said, he said, I'm going to be koine my shvisa be'emtza there. So there's no raya that he was passing up Rav Yosef. Rav Meir Oimer, Kol Sheyachal La'aretz. If he has two houses, two different tchumim, he's limited by only the common denominator between the two tchumim. So the Gemara says we already learned that. Chamar Gamel, Hatanina Chadazimna. So Suffolk, Rav Meir, Rav Yudah Oimrim, Harei Chamar Gamel, that in Eruvin Daf Lamed Hey, where an item rolled chutz l'tchum, they got burned up, so there was a machlokes. And also said Harei Chamar Gamel. So we already learned this concept. On Rav Sheshes, Lo Temetam Rav Meir, Suffolk Yiris Suffolk Loyev. Don't say over here in our Mishnah that the reason that they're saying that they only share the common denominator is because we're concerned maybe he did make an error, he didn't. But for example, if we know for sure he did not make an error, it would not be the shared common denominator. Even in the case where we know for sure he didn't make an error. But because he has houses in the two different cities, we calculate this shared common denominator, it can only go that amount of distance. Even if we know for sure he didn't make an error. And still, he's still limited according to that common denominator area between the two tchum. Mishnah. This is where Walter was talking about the Daled Amos. So let's say you have laid your Eruv down and you've now walked 4,000 Amos. Or let's say you have no Eruv and you walk 2,000 Amos out of your city. That's all you get. And you take one step out, you can't come back in. And you got to stand there for the rest of Shabbos. Rabbi Eliezer Omer Shtayim Yikones, Shalosh Lo Yikones. Rabbi Eliezer gives you a leeway of 2 Amos. That if you're 2 Amos, you can come back out, come back into the Tchum, but if you're beyond 2, you can't come back out. Where does
Rabbi Eliezer learn the din of 2 Amos?
I think we learned it before. That had to do because
we know that it's exact. If you go one Amma out,
we learned it from Daled Amos because it's half.
We learned it. We had this before. That when we say a person has Daled Amos, do we measure it from his body? He gets 2 Amos this way and 2 Amos that way, or is it an extremist? And he gets 4 and 4. Remember that we had that machlokas?
Yeah, we had that. Yeah.
A few pages ago. So I believe that Rabbi Eliezer gets the 2 Amos from this concept that you get 2 Amos on either side of you. I believe. By the way, the Shulchan Aruch paskins, Misha yatsa chutz l'tchum b'mezid, af ama achas lo yikanes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So
if you step up amazing 1 amma, you can't go back in, like the Tanakh. However, the Magen Avraham learns, if in haya onus, let's say you were dizzy, you didn't know what you were doing, you stepped out. O sheyesh dvar mitzvah b'davar, nir lahakil lahatir lavliya tchuma b'tchuma ir. we're going to see at the end of the sugya that the city's limits includes you. That means even if you, we'll see that when they plan the city limits, there's some leeway. And if you're honest, you can come back in. So that's how the Gemara is going to pass it. Let's see. Raglo achas betoch hatchum, v'raglo achas chut hatchum.
Does the Ori Miklat, in the Ori Miklat, does he have a Dalet Amos after to go out before the guy, the relative can kill him?
Can we wait to Masechta Makis where we're going to learn the sugya there? So we're going to learn the sugya. The sugya will be fleshed out in full in Masechta Makis where we learn the dinim of Ori Miklat.
No, but we said we're talking about okay, all right. But just generally, I was thinking because he has Dalet Amos by Shabbos, does he have Dalet Amos by anything else?
We'll see. I think we brought that up a few blot ago. We discussed some of that.
Right.
Hang on 1 second. He's sort of straddling the tchum. One leg is in, one leg is out. Says Rav Chanina lo yikanes. He's stuck. D'chsivim toshiv mishabes raglecha. Raglecha means even one leg. So lashon yachid. Even putting one leg outside, returning one leg on Shabbos is already a sin. Freit the Gemara about Tanya, there's another bride that says Raglach is betoch atchum, Raglach chutz atchum yikanes. So it's just the opposite. Omani acherimi. That brisa is acheri. Now we know later on in Shas we're going to learn who's acherim, Rav Meir. But so, anyways, that brisa is acherim. The Tanya acherim oimrim l'makom sheruba hu niskar. A person, we have to see where the majority of his body is. Now, since the majority of his body is still within the tchum, just because one leg is there, is the majority of his body still within the tchum, so that's how we follow. Ikedi Amri, in fact, some people learn the sugya a different way. Here they start off by saying that if you're straddling the tchum, you can come in. Just the same pasuk, raglecha karima. With that, it's written raglecha, but we read it raglecha means your 2 feet. It means with 1 foot you could bring it back in. There's another brayso that says you can't come back in. Which here they're saying you should follow the brayso. You should follow the where the majority of the body is, where he thinks it's on the outside, not on the inside. Okay, then Rabbi Eliezer Omer Shtayim Yikanes Shalosh Lo Yikanes. Rabbi Eliezer gave us a leeway of 2. I Vatani Rabbi Eliezer Omer Achas Yikanes Shtayim Lo Yikanes. Another brayso that's just the opposite. Lo Yikash Hada Akar Chada the Kamatarti. That means if he picked up his leg and he's standing on 2 legs, that means he stepped out and now he's 1 amma out. And then he took another step to the second amma and he's standing there and he has not gone beyond 2, then he can go back in. But if he took 1 step beyond the 2 amma, and I guess 1 leg is still by the 2 and 1 is at the 3, then he can't go back. Freik the Gemara about Tanya Rabbi Ezra Mafilu Amachas Loikanes. Ki Tanya Ila Moide. That's a case where, for example, somebody did not know the exact distances. So what he did, he measured off. We said that a person's stride, a Benoni stride, is 1 amma. And he counted out 2,000 ammas. And the din is, means if you start counting and you get to 2,000 amas, you end up in a cave. And the cave is a Rishus HaYachid. You cannot step even one, even though now you're in a Rishus HaYachid. You think, oh, I could go wherever I want here. No. So in a case where you're moide, then even if you're one step, one amma beyond, then you can't go back in. Mishech shechutz l'tchum. Person went to sleep and he's outside of his tchum. Afilu amma achas lo yikamis. He was traveling and it quickly became Shabbos and he's outside of the tchum. Can't come in. Even if he's one amma away. Rab Shimon Omer afilu chomesh esrei amos yikamis. Rab Shimon gives us a 15 amma, and look at Rashi, lav davka chomesh esrei amma. Meaning, you can go in no matter what. She'ena mashachos b'matzah zamidus b'nei atoyim. The people who planned out cities, they understood that people would get stuck. So they really, what you think is 2,000 amas is really 1,800. And they gave you a 200 amma leeway. So if a person is close, he can come in. That's basically what this Mishnah says. They were concerned that people wouldn't measure properly, so they were machmer, and they made when they planned the city, they made it they measured it smaller. What does the Shulchan Aruch say? Mishech shechutz l'tchum azul lekan zafil ha'ma'achas aval yesh lo tchum Shabbos b'mokum sheShabbos bo. It seems like we're machmir regarding this din that. However, remember the Magen Avram says if you're an oinus and a dvar mitzvah, you can whatever the normal tchum. If it says this tchum ends for this city at this location, as long as you're in that area, you can come in. Hadulach mishot siu, hadulach mishot siu, hadulach mishot siu. We'll start the new Mishnah tomorrow.
Excellent. Thank you. Night.
Okay.
Shkoyach.
Tomorrow night is Shir, so we'll learn. I think we learn at 9:00.
All right.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.